The Farmworker Rights Division of the Georgia Legal Services Program represents farm laborers throughout Georgia, and we are the only organization in the state dedicated solely to the representation of farm workers. We do this with 5 staff members, 2 attorneys, 2 paralegals, and a regional operations manager, all of whom speak English and Spanish. We can represent workers from different backgrounds, including U.S. citizens, legal permanent residents, foreign guest workers, and workers who are victims of human trafficking, regardless of their immigration status. Georgia is second only to Florida in the number of foreign guest agricultural workers that enter the country with H-2A visas every year. In 2020, the U.S. Department of Labor approved 27,000 H-2A visas for workers to come to Georgia to perform temporary agricultural labor, and we're seeing a significant increase this year.
What is the Farm Worker Rights Division currently working on?
As a result of the huge influx of foreign guest workers coming to Georgia with H-2A visas, most of our current cases deal with helping these workers address violations of their employment rights. Most of these workers leave their families in Mexico or Central America because of scarce opportunities for work in their home communities. The chance to earn over $11 an hour, the current statutory minimum wage for workers with H-2A visas in Georgia, brings many of our guest workers to the U.S. as they seek economic opportunities for themselves and their families. When these workers are brought under false pretenses or are mistreated or underpaid while working in Georgia, we seek to vindicate their rights. Increasingly, we are seeing the violations escalate to reach the level of severe cases of human trafficking.
Wait, farm workers are victims of human trafficking?
Yes, many farm workers are victims of human trafficking. Human trafficking takes several forms. Sometimes it is sex trafficking, which is the kind of trafficking people are most familiar with, and sometimes it is labor trafficking. Sometimes it can be both.
So someone explain labor trafficking to me.
Worker exploitation becomes labor trafficking when an employer threatens or uses either force, fraud, or coercion to maintain control over the worker so that the worker believes there is no other choice but to continue working no matter how bad the conditions get, which is why labor trafficking is considered a form of modern-day slavery. In agriculture, trafficking often starts at recruitment, where employers lure in workers with false promises about the job. Employers will then charge the workers recruitment fees and travel expenses, putting many workers in debt and even more dependent on the job promised by the employer. Once they arrive in Georgia, workers may find the job was not what was promised, with the actual pay being lower or sometimes given no pay at all. And because the workers are often working and living in isolated areas, they are at the mercy of the employer. All of their immediate needs, housing, meals, transportation, access to healthcare, are controlled by their employer. It is common for the employer to then threaten to have workers deported or blacklisted from the H-2A program if they leave the job or complain about the conditions. The most common practice of trafficking in agriculture is document confiscation, such as taking a worker's passport to restrict their movement. In the worst cases of labor trafficking, workers are forced to go hungry while working long hours for little to no pay and housed in inhumane conditions, all while the employer is forcing them to stay under those conditions for the duration of the contract through intimidation and coercion. That is labor trafficking.
What does GLSP do for labor trafficking victims?
There are several ways we can help a victim of labor trafficking as a legal services organization. First, we conduct regular outreach visits to hundreds of worker housing camps every year to educate workers about their rights and to let them know how to contact us if they have questions about their rights. Once a worker contacts us and we determine they are a victim of human trafficking, we put them in contact with a social services organization so they may receive assistance once they escape the trafficking situation. In some cases, When victims have been unable to escape on their own, we contacted law enforcement to help extract them. Once the worker is in a safe environment, we talk to them about legal help. When a worker has been trafficked, we can offer to represent the worker in a civil lawsuit against the trafficker, if they choose to do so. We can also help them apply for humanitarian immigration relief in the form of a T visa. A T visa grants an immigration benefit that allows victims of severe human trafficking to remain in the United States for up to 4 years if the victim meets certain requirements. Clients who are eligible for a T visa can also apply to bring their spouse and children. They are eligible for employment authorization and certain federal and state benefits and services. With a T visa, they may also be able to adjust their status and obtain a green card as a lawful permanent resident if they choose to do so before their T visa expires.
So, what does all of this look like in real life?
One of our clients was an H-2A worker hired from her hometown in Mexico by a South Georgia farm labor contractor. The crew had 40 workers, but only 4 women. Even though the H-2A program is exclusively for agricultural work, our client was forced to work in a restaurant as a cook, earning a wage that was lower than the rate promised in her H-2A contract. She was a victim of discrimination based on her sex because she wasn't allowed to work in the fields with the men, where she would have had an opportunity to make a higher wage. She was also a victim of forced labor as her employer confiscated her travel documents and kept her working under threats. We represented her in a federal lawsuit, which resulted in a settlement of over $150,000.
We had another set of 13 clients who were trafficked in a group. The workers were lied to during recruitment, had to pay illegal recruitment fees, and incurred debt. Once in Georgia, the employer engaged them in forced labor by confiscating their passports, housing them in inhumane living conditions, and not paying most of their wages. We represented these workers in their federal lawsuit against their trafficker. The defendant failed to respond or defend himself in court. Therefore, our clients were granted a default judgment. We still had to prove damages to the court, so we presented our case at a hearing before the U.S. District Court in Brunswick, Georgia. As a result, our clients were awarded over $278,000 in damages. In addition to the civil lawsuit, we also secured humanitarian immigration relief for our clients in the form of T visas.
That sounds life-changing for those workers.
And this is how we fulfill GLSP's mission of providing opportunities out of poverty for our clients. If you're interested in learning more or getting involved to help GLSP on this mission, contact us through our website at glsp.org.